I'm Mike Lloyd. I'm executive director of Broadway Grand Rapids. Maybe you recognize me. I play the guy who stands in the front lobby at our beautiful DeVos Hall before every performance and greets you. Maybe you don't. It's been a while, but I hope you remember me. Anyway, it has been a while, and it'll be a little while longer before we're back on stage, back in the hall. But that doesn't mean we can't still get together virtually. So I want to be the first to introduce you to a new series we're going to try here. It's called Backstage Stories from Broadway Grand Rapids. And this is a way to connect you more personally and directly with some of the talented, successful actors that usually we see only on stage. We will bring you stories of stars from the Mitten. Ta-da! Yes, Mitten people, the people from Michigan who've taken their talents successfully to Broadway. To host this series, we're very fortunate to have a talented actor, some of you know him, Joe Carroll, who will be hosting these unique episodes over the next few months. Joe's a Grand Rapids native. He's a graduate of East Grand Rapids High School. He's been in a lot of was in a lot of plays there and a lot of other plays locally. Matter of fact, his big break was at Civic Theater when he played Newsboy 1 in Annie and got to shout, "Extra, extra, read all about it." I'm sure that stole the show. Joe earned his bachelor's degree in fine arts at the U of M, and he studied Shakespeare in London. On Broadway, his latest role, pre-pandemic, was Prince Hans in Frozen. He's also played Johnny Simpson in Bandstand, Prince Topher in Cinderella, and he had roles in Romeo and Juliet and Once. He's also had multiple roles in television series. One of my favorites, he's been on NCIS New Orleans, Chicago Fire, Elementary, and even a soap opera, All My Children. He plays several musical instruments, and he even has an awesome podcast called Guys Who Like Musicals. But it's probably not that much fun to hear me talk about him, so let's actually meet him. So let me introduce to you Joe Carroll. Come on, Joe. Well, Joe.
What? Hi, Mike.
What is that? What's this robe?
Mike, I live in my bathrobe. I've been living in my bathrobe for the last 9 months. Welcome to my apartment. This is what I look like now. No, it's a bad joke. I promise I'm wearing real clothes.
Oh.
I'm wearing real pants.
Good.
I promise. This is so fun. It's great to see you.
Well, great to see you too. Great to see you.
Thank you for this. I'm really excited. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm going to correct one thing that you said. My family, we moved from Chicago to Grand Rapids when I was 14. So my very first show in Annie was actually at the community theater in middle of nowhere, Illinois. And then I moved to Michigan when I was 14. And then my first show at Civic was Chorus Line. But I did play the newsboy in Annie. I did shout extra, extra. I'll read all about it. And I did steal the show. So,
so in all modesty, I had that part right.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, this is so cool. Thank you for having me. I hope that people enjoy this thing. We've been working really hard on it. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about what this is going to be, and we can sort of go back and forth because basically, the history, Backstage Stories, sort of the history of this. You came to me and were like, we want to do something for our subscribers. We want to keep everybody connected. We want to, create some original content for them. And so you came to me and you were like, hey, what could we do? And so we came up with this sort of late night TV style interview show. Where I'm going to lead, hopefully, some of your favorite actors and people who are associated with the Broadway community through interviews. There's going to be a live performance element every week. So it's not just going to be me talking, I promise. And it's going to be people you know, a lot of people maybe you don't, but people with that West Michigan connection. I love the mittens. That was hilarious. It was really, and so I hope that
I hope a lot of production values.
Yes, exactly. This is a high budget show. Amazing. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do. And it's going to be bi-weekly ish throughout the winter and spring. And you'll all get notifications of who the next guests are. And as we move forward, when these are airing live, and then also how to access them after the live shows. But yeah, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be silly. It's going to be a chance for me to talk to some of my favorite people and a lot of people that I don't know. But we're going to get a lot of people who've been through Grand Rapids and who love West Michigan. Maybe as much as I do, but probably not.
Well, like you said, this is going to be fun. I think we should start, though, with not everybody. I mean, I know you have that starring role, that one line, but not everybody in West Michigan knows who you are. So we thought that today would be an introductory show, and we'll get to know you a little better.
Perfect. I love it.
So the bathrobe, of course, sets up the first question is, where were you? Where were you the first week of March when the lights went on Broadway and everything was shut down? No shows, no paychecks, right?
Yeah.
But the grocery bills, the rent, all that. So what's up with you?
Absolutely. So back in March, I had finished my run in Frozen. I had done a year as Prince Hans in Frozen. And I had ended my run on February 18th, I think it was. And so things were starting to the rumors were starting to happen that there was a virus and things were happening. And then my wife was doing a show at Paper Mill Playhouse in New Jersey. Alex Fink, she was in Come From Away, along with many other things. She is definitely going to be a guest on this show. And we're just going to sit on this couch and probably talk a lot about Come From Away. But she was finishing a show at Paper Mill. And she finished March 1st, and we were just honestly on to our next thing. We had a bunch of stuff in the pipeline. We were ready to move on to kind of our next thing. And then they said it was going to be a week. They said it was going to be 2 weeks. They said it was going to be a month. They said it was going to be 6 months. And, now here we are going on a year later. And, it's been an incredibly difficult year. And it has been for everybody. But one of the things that Alex and I mean, this show is a perfect example. We just innovate, figure it out. People have to figure things out and innovate throughout their lives. And we never expected a pandemic. So we have been teaching constantly. We have been doing little TV work here and there. We are running late night style talk shows for Broadway Grand Rapids. We're doing basically whatever we can.
This could be your big break.
Hey, listen, I don't know who's out there, but if Seth Meyers ever retires, this could be my calling card. No. So yeah, I think it's, we're, like you said, I have a podcast, Guys Who Like Musicals, which is available everywhere. We're doing a whole bunch of things to just keep the lights on. And I'm grateful. My wife is brilliant, and we're just kind of doing the best we can. But we like to say that we are taking on water, but we're bailing it out quickly. So, we're staying afloat.
So then let's pretend things are normal, because you kind of alluded to that you're past Frozen and looking to the next thing. So tell us about the auditioning process. Is it like in Chorus Line? Is it that brutal anymore? Or is it all on, you send something via podcast or over your phone? Tell me about auditioning.
Well, yeah. I mean, when things are normal, auditions are very similar to, like Chorus Line or all that jazz. I mean, maybe not all that jazz, maybe less drugs, but there's a lot of, it's incredibly intense. My audition process for Frozen in particular was, I think I had 4 auditions for varying people. You start in, you go in for the casting director. That's 1. The casting director likes you. They call you back for the associate director. That's 2. So usually the associate team. So I went in for them. Then I did a dance call to, see if I could do Love Is an Open Door and spin Patty Murin around over my head. And then audition, I guess that's 3 or 4 or 5-ish, was a callback with the director and all of the executives at Disney. So there was about 25 people behind a room at a big fancy studio in Times Square. And then my final callback was just me and 2 other guys, and even more executives at Disney. You can't imagine how many executives there are at the Disney Corporation who make decisions based on their musicals, until you go into a room and you see all of them behind a table looking at you. But no, they were lovely. But that was the Frozen experience. But usually that's how it works. It starts with like one audition, and casting directors are the first point of contact. We're like, hey, maybe this is going to work, maybe it's not. And then you just continue through that process.
Okay, let's get to the dramatic moment. You went through all of these people, and now you get down to the final two, and it's thumbs down or thumbs up. What do you get a call? How do you find out that you got it or I didn't?
Yeah, right. They call you. I got a call. It's different sort of show to show. My Broadway debut, which we'll talk about later, I got a text from the casting director as I was going through security at Newark Airport to come home to Grand Rapids for a wedding. I was coming home for a wedding, and I got this text that like, hey, you're going to be in Once on Broadway, as I was walking through security. And so I started crying in Newark Airport, and everybody was like, oh my God, I hope he's okay. And I was like, no, it's the best day of my life. It's so that was that one. But yeah, I was for Frozen. I remember where I was for all of those calls. I've been lucky enough to have 5 of them now. And that Newark Airport, I was walking down 9th Avenue in Hell's Kitchen for the second one. The third one, I was home in Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is my good luck charm. Like anything that usually happens audition related that is good, I'm either in Grand Rapids, or I'm coming from Grand Rapids, or I'm going to Grand Rapids. Cinderella, was my 3rd Broadway show. I was in my mom's living room, got a phone call from my agent. And then for Frozen, I was walking through Times Square, and it's kind of one of those crazy things. It does happen that way where, you're walking through Times Square and you get a phone call and you look up and you're like, huh, here I am in the middle of the theater district, and all I want to do is be on a Broadway stage, and here's the phone call. So,
well, is there because we aren't in New York and Broadway, right. Is there a difference in the procedure and who gets cast for roles on the road? Not go on Broadway.
Usually no. And actually, I just want to kudos to you guys for a second, because when I moved to Grand Rapids, like I said, in 2004, Broadway Grand Rapids has expanded and become one of the premier destinations for tours in the country. And I live in New York City. My friend, I'm not even trying to butter you guys up. Hamilton, Wicked, Phantom, Mean Girls, these shows don't go to small places. They don't go, they go to the big markets. They go to theaters they want to play, and they go to regions that they want to play. And so seeing where Broadway Grand Rapids was in 2004 and to where it is now is like mind blowing and so amazing. And I'm so just blown away by you guys. The answer to your question is no.
I don't care if you're telling the truth. That's a great act. You've done a terrific job.
It's totally true. And I don't want to diss on other cities, but when people all of these friends and my wife, Alex, toured through Grand Rapids with Anything Goes. And so we'll talk about that when I have her on the show. But that people love Grand Rapids. People were they go through, I don't know, pick your city that is maybe not so cool. And they're like, wait a minute. Downtown Grand Rapids, we are going to bars and breweries and coffee shops, and there's culture, and there's this beautiful river and running paths. And a lot of these small towns some small towns that people go through with shows, they don't, they're not as cool. So that's a plug from a hometown. But the process is no different. The depending on the tier of tour, which is kind of like the contract levels, sometimes the shows are like a slightly smaller show that maybe wasn't as big of a hit in New York. So, that would mean that maybe just they've pared down the sets a little bit, but the actors are the same. The process is the same. You go through that same long, audition process for anything from Hamilton to Wicked to Come From Away, because, it is, these tours they're the lifeblood of the companies a lot of times. Sometimes, shows I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. I mean, unfortunately, Mean Girls just announced that it was closing on Broadway, but the tour is still very much out. And, so that's one of the things that process wise, the tours are absolutely no different. You get the same talent, same people. And frankly, some people like it even more to get to go around the country, see all these towns and play cities as opposed to, have to live in Manhattan, which is, the most expensive place on earth, and none of us can afford to live here.
Right.
So.
Okay, well, we've had enough. Now comes a lightning round.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready for this?
Got it.
Yes, your dog or Beltline bar?
Yes, your dog. I got in my, sorry, not to, I know it's the lightning round, but I've never gotten in a fight, but I got in a fight at Yesterdog. I was in college. PJ Forsland and Catherine Milner and good friends from high school. If any of those people, I'm so sorry to my mom and to Mrs. Milner and Mrs. Forsland.
This is going to be memorialized now.
I know we were out there. We were defending our honor because we wanted Yesterdog. So anyway, okay. Yeah, definitely Yesterdog.
Blueberries or cherries?
Blueberries.
Okay, fresh.
I know that's controversial. Definitely fresh water. Got to be.
Okay. Boyne ski slopes or Grand Haven beaches?
I'm going to go Boyne ski slopes. Maybe it's because it's the middle of the winter, but I miss skiing. I love the cold weather. I really do.
That's weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Best town in Michigan?
Without question. Glen Arbor. Glen Arbor, Michigan.
Glen Arbor, not Ann Arbor.
Glen Arbor, I grew up going to vacationing in Glen Arbor, went to school in Ann Arbor, grew up in Grand Rapids. There's so many great places in our state, but Glen Arbor, it's the happy place. It's the background on my phone. It's the background on my computer. It's just the greatest. It's the greatest place. And one of the only things that I found very positive this year was I got to spend some time up there. This summer. I mean, usually when I'm working and we're doing 8 shows a week, I don't get to spend a lot of time there, but also, this commercial, those pure Michigan commercials, just like, how could you, it's the greatest ad campaign in history. It just gets you like, I want it. Please bring me back. So
sorry. I think there was only one right answer, Grand Rapids.
I know.
But I digress. Okay. So now we're back to serious stuff now. So
Great.
Do you have a favorite role? Do you have a top 5?
I would say, favorite role so far, getting to do, I would say there's 2 different things in there, but one is very small, but the other was Johnny and Bandstand. Getting to originate a role in a Broadway company was every actor's dream. To get to do that. I developed that from the very beginning. Those were a lot of my jokes. Those were a lot of my ideas. I've been a drummer since I was in diapers. And so getting to play drums on a Broadway stage was incredibly cool. And then the other thing that was very cool, this was a TV show that nobody saw, but it was called Deception. And it was a TV show on ABC for 1 season. And it was my first TV job. One of my first kind of like real TV job. I had done, like you mentioned, I've done a soap opera. I did 1 episode of a soap opera, which was hilarious. But this was the first time like I had to be in hair and makeup for 4 hours before shooting, and shooting for 14, 15 hours, to do this thing. Getting to learn the television world was extremely cool. So if anybody has ever watched that show, I did 2 episodes where I played an evil French like art dealer kind of guy. And so I had this long wig and this long beard. You won't even know it's me, but it was one of the coolest things ever. So
that's funny. Well, I thought you were going to mention Frozen, because don't we have a clip of you in Frozen?
We do have a Frozen. We're going to do that right now.
Okay.
Frozen was unbelievable. This was a super cool thing. Everybody knows Frozen. If you don't, I'm sorry, you're living under a rock. But this was a video that we did that is sort of a la the like Jimmy Fallon and the Roots doing songs with kids instruments. You know how they do that on those videos where it's like, Questlove is like playing a little ukulele or whatever. And so, kazoos or whatnot. So this was a whole series that we did, and ours was Love is an Open Door with kids instruments. And it's super fun. Hope you enjoy it.
Can I just say something crazy?
I love crazy.
All my life has been a series of doors in my face. And then suddenly I bumped into you.
I was thinking the same thing, because like I've been searching my whole life to find my own place, and maybe it's the party talking, the chocolate fondue,
But with you,
I found my
I'm safe.
place, and it's nothing like I've ever known before.
Love is an open door.
Love is an open door.
Love is an open door.
With you, with you.
Love is an open door.
I think it's crazy. We finish each other's
Sandwiches.
That's what I was gonna say.
Never met someone who
Thinks so much like me. Jinx. Jinx again.
Our mental synchronization can't have but one explanation.
You
And I
were
just
meant to be.
say goodbye.
Say goodbye to the pain of the past. We don't have to feel it anymore. Love is an open door.
Love is an open door.
Life is so much more with you, with you. Love is an open door. Can I say something crazy? Would you marry me?
Can I say something crazier? Yes.
I forgot about the when she did. That's how it ended with the triangle. So silly. It's so
that
silly.
was cool. That was really fun to see.
So we'll do something like that with all the guests. We'll have like a little. There's going to be a little video. You know, something to promote, something to get to have you get to know them, and then hopefully do something live, which we'll do in a second. But yeah, thank you for showing that. That was really fun.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of fun. Okay, now we're back to the tough questions.
Okay.
The biggest news in your life. There's only one right answer, and it begins with Alex.
The biggest news, yeah, we my wife Alex Fink, she's the greatest thing in the world. We got married 2 years ago. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary, and sort of there's a lot of Broadway stuff around that story. As we got engaged, I was like ready to ask her, and I was going to take her to Glen Arbor and ask her at the top of Pyramid Point and look out over Lake Michigan. And then she's like, "Hey, I booked this show called Come From Away." And now basically that means you're doing 8 shows a week and you can never go anywhere. And so I ended up asking her to marry me in my apartment, in my first sort of real apartment. She's amazing.
I thought the key was Ben Folds.
Well, Ben Folds was our first date. Actually, up on the wall is one of the coolest wedding presents we got was from my best friend Colin, who gave us. He found a T-shirt from that Ben Folds tour, the Way to Normal tour in 2008, and he framed it, and it's up on the wall, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
You talked about Bandstand a little bit before. Is that now going to be a movie? Are you involved in that?
Yeah. So the movie is we filmed the movie, and it basically just a live filmed version, same as Hamilton did it, and it's on Disney Plus now. What they do with it is they release it periodically and show it. They showed it on Playbill, they showed it on Broadway HD for a while. So there are going to be moments to continue to watch it. But right now I don't think you could watch it at this particular moment, but it does exist, and they show it. We always show it at Veterans Day. We show, there's a lot of those holidays supporting veterans, because that was, a huge part of that show. We always try to show it around then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We have to do another lightning round.
Great. Love it.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Verner's or Fago?
Verner's.
All right. Ted Nugent or Bob Seger?
Bob Seger.
Tigers, Lions, or Wings?
I'd say Wings. I'm a huge hockey guy. I played hockey at East Grand Rapids with Luke Glendenning, who is currently on the Red Wings. That's one of my absolute favorite fun facts. Where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I played hockey with a guy who's in the NHL, but not a big deal.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's get to hydrating. Bells or Founders?
I gotta say Founders. I love
Okay.
I love All Day IPA, but I'm also a big Two Hearted fan. I just think that Founders is so cool, and I actually grew up across the street from one of the guys who
Right.
started it, and so we were family friends. And so I think if he ever saw this and I said bells, then we'd be
Yeah.
out. So yeah, good. Also, their new facility's so cool. All that
Oh, it
outdoor
is,
stuff,
yeah.
and like, oh my gosh, it's just the coolest. Yeah.
Okay. The last one. Comedians in cars getting coffee or carpool karaoke?
Comedians in cars getting coffee. I think Jerry Seinfeld is the best. I'm a coffee fanatic. This is cup 4 or 3 of the day. I just think they're great. And I love those interview shows. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. I love talking to people, and Jerry Seinfeld is the best. I don't know anything about cars, but I do love coffee, and I love those people he talks to.
You love coffee. Okay. And I have to ask you one that really comes from me watching people like you on stage, where you have these long speeches and presentations. How do you memorize? I mean, is stuff written on your arms?
I actually love this question because I am really bad at it. And there are people who, like, my wife has a photographic memory. So, and a lot of people do, a lot of actors do. Like, I mean, I'm a big fan of The West Wing. I'm a huge Jude Law fan. And these guys, they do all the Shakespeare, and they do incredibly,
Right.
and they're just like, oh yeah, it's easy. Like, I don't worry about memorizing lines. It takes an incredible amount of work for me to memorize lines. It just takes time. It's repetition. I write things down. I recite them. One of the jokes we have is, like, you'll see people talking to themselves on the subway platform, and that person is either a crazy person or they're an actor trying to remember their lines. And so if you see me with headphones on in New York talking to myself, I'm trying to memorize words. Like yesterday, I had an audition yesterday, and I went for a run, put the lines on my headphones, and was like listening to them, and I'm saying the lines as I'm running. So I'm running through the Riverside Park, and I'm sure people are like, who's the maniac? Oh, he's probably an actor trying to learn his lines.
Yeah. Okay. Is there one? I mean, you've had a lot of success, but is there any particular actor, actress? I'm trying to keep it generic.
Of course.
That you hope sometime in your career you get to be on stage with that person. And the second half of that question, is there one role you'd hope to get someday?
I'll answer part 2 first, because I just love Shakespeare, and I love all of those roles. They're great roles. They're so dynamic and fun, and they stand the test of time for audiences, but also for actors. It's just like, it's the greatest acting challenge that you can have. And I got to understudy Orlando Bloom in Romeo and Juliet. I was supposed to go on as Romeo, and then the show canceled. The show closed. We didn't do too hot, so we closed early. More of that in any way. I'd love to play Henry V. I'd actually love to do all of the Henrys, if anybody's a Shakespeare nerd, to like start at Henry IV Part 1 and then go all the way through Henry V. I love the comedies, Much Ado and Comedy of Errors and all of those. And then if there's anybody that I would really love to work with, off the top of my head, I mean, just because I've been on a bit of a succession kick right now. I love all those actors. I'm trying to think of somebody in particular, because there's not really one that's coming out the top of my head, but I would, like somebody like Hugh Jackman. I got into this because of guys like Hugh Jackman, who were Wolverine and also the Boy from Oz. And, so somebody like that, I just want to like work with him, but I also want to meet him, because I don't think I'd be able to keep it together. I think I'd be a total nerd. Wouldn't be able to formulate sentences or questions.
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're maybe coming out of the tunnel. Maybe the vaccines are getting out there, and things are going to open up, we hope. What's the timetable for you for reopening, and what's next?
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that it's like we are in the tunnel, and there's that light that is like, we're in the world's longest, tunnel, but the tunnel is, we can see it. I want to, first of all, my wife and I were talking about this last night, that I want to be in the first, I want to be in the audience for the first performance of something on Broadway. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Phantom or Wicked. They've been around, something I've seen before, something that's been around for 100 years. I want to be in that audience for one of those shows that opens early. I just can't imagine. I had so many friends who were opening shows that were, this season that got canceled. So like one of my dear friends is playing Jamie and Company, which is that gender swapped version of Company that's coming to Broadway. And so he sings I'm Not Getting Married, which if anybody knows Company, pardon me, is anybody here? Because if anybody's here, I want to thank you all for coming to the wedding, like that. I'd want to see him do that. Yeah, the other stuff, I mean, I was in final callbacks for a bunch of stuff. A bunch of TV stuff, a bunch of shows, a bunch of, musicals and things that may or may not happen now. So we're in this place in our lives where we have no idea what's coming next. And that is terrifying and also thrilling and part of our business. So who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Well, okay. So what you touched on it before, but I have one more prop.
Okay. Hey, that's it.
Tell us about your Broadway debut.
That's amazing. I once came through Broadway Grand Rapids, right?
Yes.
You guys had it? Oh yeah. I hope that people got to see it. It's my favorite show. It is my favorite show of all time. I was lucky enough to get to do it. I saw it twice on Broadway, cried through the whole thing, but saw as a musician, it's 22-year-old, 21-year-old. I was like, if I'm going to jump the line, because it takes, a lifetime to get to Broadway, that like, if I'm going to be 21, 22, and I'm going to jump the line and get to be in a Broadway show, this is the one it's going to be, because there was one role in the ensemble. It was an offstage cover who had to cover 4 roles and guitar, bass, drums, mandolin, ukulele, piano, harmonica. Among some other things. I think I said bass. And so I could do that. And I said, if I can, I spent the summer, I was working at Mason Street Warehouse in Saugatuck, Michigan. We were doing Avenue Q. And on breaks, I would sit and I would teach myself how to play the banjo and teach myself how to play the mandolin. And just with listening to the record and listening to Glenn Hansard's music. And so it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. But at the end of it, I was like, there was the heartache side of it where I was an understudy. I was hoping to get promoted to one of the roles. I didn't. And so then I started looking for other work. I got another show and I ended up leaving. It was incredibly emotional. So I still, with that show, have this like longing to do it again, to do it regionally, to do it in a revival, I sit around playing the songs all the time. So in the spirit of live performance, so this is kind of cool. When we played, we had a deal with Martin Guitars. And so we were able to get guitars on sale, basically, at sort of at cost. And so this was a very nice guitar that I got. And I got once monogrammed right there on the fretboard. I don't know if you see that. So this is my favorite thing. So what we thought that we would do with this is that we would, we'd have some semblance of a live performance element. And maybe it's me playing for people. Maybe it's, working something out that we're still figuring all that out, but we wanted to have it be like, where Stephen Colbert comes out and says like, okay, and now, Miley Cyrus. And so this is like I guess we're the Broadway version of Miley Cyrus. I hope not, but maybe. So
maybe, sure.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, this is, if you're ready, I'll just launch into something.
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay, great. So this is one of my favorite songs from the show. And actually when, my wife and I are living in a 1-bedroom apartment. And so, in New York, when the sun comes out during a pandemic, I can't help but think about this song because we're able to go for a walk. So. and I love her so. I wouldn't trade her for gold. Walking on moonbeams, I was born with a silver spoon, and I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna be free. Walking on moonbeams and staring out to sea. If a door be closed and a row of homes start building, and tear your curtains down, for sunlight is like gold, and you better be you. Do what you can do. Walking on moonbeams, staring out to sea, as if your skin was soiled. How long do you think before they'd start digging? And if your life was gold, how long do you think you'd stay living? I love her so, I wouldn't trade her for gold. Something like that.
Fantastic. I just happen to have a sign.
Twice.
The
The sequel.
Get to a standing ovation.
The sequel.
Once is now twice.
Once is now twice. That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you. I was actually nervous. I got like super nervous doing that. Like it's an emotional song and an emotional time. And, you know, I have not been playing and I've not been singing, to be honest. So to get to do that was really fun.
Oh, thanks. I hope everybody likes that. That was wonderful.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's talk about your guest. You know,
yeah, so we're getting to the end, you know, hopefully everybody liked this. Again, we're gonna do guests, we're gonna play games, we're gonna do rapid rounds, we're gonna do all this sort of fun stuff that Mike and I just did, and then some. And if you like it, please reach out. Please let us know. We're building this really from nothing. So let us know who you want to see, what you want to see, that sort of stuff. But next time on Backstage Stories, our guest is going to be Grand Rapids' own Brian Martin. If you know theater in Grand Rapids, you know Brian Martin. Brian, basically, if you saw anything at the Civic Theater or the Circle Theater from like 2000 until 2008, you know, this kid was in it. He grew up doing tons of shows at Civic and Circle. He's a graduate of Western Michigan University, toured through DeVos Hall with Beauty and the Beast in 2012, also toured with Bullets Over Broadway. He was about to make his Broadway debut in Mrs. Doubtfire when the pandemic took hold. He is one of my oldest friends. He's hilarious. He's talented. He's a wonderful guy. So please join us on January 28th for the first official, not that this wasn't official. I had a blast, Mike. Thank you very much. But our first official Broadway Backstage Stories.
I don't know, Joe. I mean, you just sort of dissed me there. I mean, I spent weeks getting ready. You
I
talked
didn't
about
mean
the
to.
pressure on you. What about me?
I know you did. Yeah, it was a lot of work. This is a lot of work. Isn't this a lot of work? But it's great fun.
It's been fun. I mean, we barely know each other from times you've been in Grand Rapids. I can't tell you how proud we are of you and your success and the way we basically take ownership of everybody from Grand Rapids who hits the big time in Broadway. It's just fantastic. And we appreciate you being our emissary and our entry point to a lot of other shows. So thank you. I hope people do take up the idea of letting us know if there are others that they'd like to hear about or from. This is a great series. Oh, just thank you so much.
You got it. You got it. Thank you so much. And hopefully to all of you out there, we will see you on the 28th. Meanwhile, stay well.